On this week's Gridiron Report, we have some Detroit preseason performances and battles that we're watching, and a fact or fiction for the Lions. And it's all brought to you by our new friends at Old Glory. Use promo code GRIT for 15% off any product at oldglory.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports Podcast, presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, August 19th, and we finally have football. I don't know if we talked about the Hall of Fame game at all over the last few weeks. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game, I feel like it's like I watched like the first 3 to 4 minutes of it just because football's back and I'm so jazzed about it, and then it quickly kind of just the excitement dwindles because it's just a Hall of Fame game. No one's really playing in it. I know that game ended up being a phenomenal game. Obviously the Lions weren't playing in it, so I had turned it off by then and went on and did other things, so I actually missed that game. But the Lions actually had a game. They had their first preseason game against the Bengals. They end up losing 16-14. We have a lot to talk about with that game. We're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to come back and play a little fact or fiction for the Lions. But football, in any regard, football is here, even if it is just preseason.
Football's back, man. It's funny you mentioned the Hall of Fame game. It's a game that I usually find myself not watching. I don't know. I feel like I'm always have something going on. And I wish that I saw this Hall of Fame game because you're right. It was an absolute banger. At the end of the day, still preseason. But seeing the boys suit up is never a bad thing. And then, fast forward a week, the Lions are in a preseason game, man. You could say what you want about preseason, but there are a ton of battles still up for grabs, position battles for the Lions. It's still very important, especially with a shortened preseason going down from 4 games to 3, a preseason where, a lot of times your starters are not playing that often. We'll get to that in just a second, but these games still matter for a lot of guys, even though, us on the couch, we might kind of scoff at it. These are pivotal weeks right now. And so we can break down the Lions preseason game. I thought it was really interesting. Even before our game, I saw in a lot of other preseason games that the starters were playing. I saw throws from I think Josh Allen. I just you name it. I feel like starters were playing in this first preseason game, and I was a bit surprised by that. And then looking at the Lions, and none of our starters played. I think not even a single snap, not even a single second in this game. Even though the Bengals starters did, Joe Burrow was in there. I think he got a couple drives at least. I thought that was big takeaway for me. Our starters did not play. Bengals did. I don't know, maybe reading into it too much. Maybe we're just chronically injured and we just can't afford any more injuries in the preseason. I'm not really sure, but certainly a choice by, Dan Campbell and by our administration to not play our starters at all in the first game.
It is interesting because Dan Campbell famously, the Lions are always hurt. I feel like every single year it's the Lions and the 49ers that are always just decimated by injuries. And the thing with the Lions is that Dan Campbell always preaches we're going to get physical. This is going to help us down the line. And because there was a whole big thing a few years ago. I remember, especially when we were on Hard Knocks, it was a big thing. And you go back and forth, some of the numbers say if you get physical and you got the pads on, you're hitting live practice and stuff, it gets your body ready for the beginning of the season. And the numbers say that it's supposed to help injuries, but then we're always chronically hurt. So it is interesting that we do go so live in training camp, and we can get to some of the injuries here as well as we kind of break down the first game. But then in that same vein, they go ahead and they don't use their starters in the preseason game, which I'm okay with. I'm on Dan Campbell's. I don't want to see. I know what these guys can do. These guys are professionals. All these guys have been playing. We don't have that young of a team, and so a lot of these guys, they need, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a game to get going and be okay, yeah, we're back into the mood, and they're back into not into full conditioning mode, because that's going to take a few weeks, obviously. But we don't need any of our starters in there. For me, this is 100% for those guys that are trying to make camp, they're trying to make the 52-man roster, or 54-man roster, or these guys that are trying to, they have already made the roster, but they're trying to figure out the starting lineup, these young guys that are learning the NFL. So I'm kind of surprised that there are so many starters around the league that are playing, especially in game one, Joe, and especially a guy like Joe Burrow, who is, and this isn't a Bengals podcast, but Joe Burrow's, he's been battling injuries since he came into the NFL. So I'm surprised that so many starters are playing across the league, but I'm happy that Detroit isn't really falling into it. And I don't know, I haven't seen what their plan is, if they're going to keep all of our starters out until the last game and just throw them in for a quarter or a drive, or maybe they're going to get them in on Saturday when we play at noon. I don't know. I haven't seen But like I'm okay with, especially with the injuries that we've already been decimated with in training camp. We'll get to here in a second. Like I'm okay with none of our starters playing and just being able to see these guys trying, these rookies trying to figure things out at the next level.
I go both ways for sure. I probably lean towards that sentiment. Like, yeah, our team is not young. We basically have veterans on both sides of the ball. Even our studs, our St. Browns are, going into their like 60s and whatever. So I definitely don't want to risk injury. At the same time, though, I would just hate to just come out slow. This is maybe a bit of a trap game week 1 against the Saints where you're looking at them like licking your chops. Oh, it's the Saints. They blow. But they're a young team too, and they have a lot of talent. And signed a really good running back. So yeah, I would hate to come out slow. If you drop that game, then you got the Bills in week 2. I need a quick start out of the boys, especially considering going to Buffalo in week 2. But all that is to say, I'm not worried about a slow start. I think I know why Cincinnati is probably playing Joe Burrow. He is actually known for, sitting out in the preseason or, having a lingering injury coming into the season, starting off slow. The team starts off slow. So I think they're looking at it like, we can't afford a slow start. Again, not necessarily worried about the Lions and that happening, but at any rate, man, I think that, there were some guys that certainly shined in week 1. I mean, and I think we got to talk about the edge rusher first, man. Ahmed Hassanein, just an insane story. In his, I think it was his first snap, sacking Joe Burrow, just like straight up beating his man, getting to the quarterback. Added another strip sack later in the game. Just the kid was everywhere, man. And this is a pivotal. I mean, we talk about the edge position and that we're thin. And this is exactly. I mean, you have one game like that, especially like I said, a preseason of just 3 games total. You have a big game. That could be the difference between getting cut and making the team, and potentially even being a difference maker on this Lions team, considering the edge is so thin. So yeah, just wanted to give that kid a shout out right now. Just hell of a game against the Bengals.
If we're gonna break that, yeah, as we get into like breaking down like individual matchups, individual player performances and stuff like that, like Ahmed has to be number 1 because Ahmed Hassanein is gonna either save someone's job this season or it's not gonna be his fault, but if he doesn't perform, he's gonna get someone fired. I truly believe that. Ahmed came out of last year's draft. He was, if you recall from last year's draft, everyone was begging the front office to go edge rusher, and they ended up not doing it with their first few picks, and then they ended up taking Ahmed Hassanein out of Boise State, and at the time they kind of fell back on that and were like, okay, yeah, like, look, we got our guy. Like, we're really happy with him. He's a guy that, like, he's a Detroit guy, and no one really knew who he was. If you knew who he was, you're probably lying. Like, I feel like no one really knew who he was until he came here. Then you looked and you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's a hard motor guy. He's a guy that kind of a diamond in the rough. Hasn't played football all that long, but, like, he's shown the intangibles. Like, he can do it. And then he got just absolute rave reviews coming out of training camp last year. Unfortunately, he went down with an injury, a season-long injury during training camp last year. And so everyone was really bummed that, like, we needed that help. And we kind of were on the edge of, like, whether he was going to be enough. And then obviously we started hearing that he was, and then he went down. And so it was really disappointing. Then they did the whole thing, like, it's an unwritten rule in the NFL. Like, you got to cut a guy, especially a rookie, due to injury to make room on the roster. Other teams can pick him up, but it's kind of a thing you don't need him to pick up. So we cut him. No team picked him up. He was able to rehab with the team, and obviously then he came back and had this great game. It's a great thing to see. It's a great story. If you have a second, just look up Ahmed Hassanein and like some of his interviews on Twitter, and like the way he talks about Coach Campbell, and like just the way he talks about football. Like he truly, you can tell the man just loves football. He loves competing. He loves like that he was just giving a chance. Like I think actually he was quoted as saying, I don't know if it's before or after the game last week, he was like, no, I told Coach Campbell I love him. Like I love that man, and he told me he loved me too. And so like the guy, he loves Detroit, he loves Campbell, he loves competing, he loves football. So like it's a great story, and then to have him come out and do that. So 100%, that's definitely the matchup and the position or the performance that I was looking forward to the most, and he performed. Now, will he be shut down coming off the injury? If you, I don't know if you caught any of the whole game or just bits and pieces of it. He did go down with an injury during the game, and kind of a weird play. Was on the ground, really, it was pounding the fist into the ground. Like everyone's like, oh shit, like this is bad. He's hurt again. He's really frustrated. Kind of got walked off the field. I think he went to the tent and then came back. And so like seeing that, I'm sure he was just like frustrated, like a little stinger or something, and thought it was worse and was frustrated coming off the year-long injury. But like I saw the 2 sacks. I saw the 1 sack. I saw the strip sack against the starters. I don't need any more injury issues. Like I'm shutting him down. So we might not get another game from him. I don't know about you. I would shut him down.
Be totally fine with that. Yeah. He did his thing. probably secure the a spot on the team just on that first play of the game, sacking Joe Burrow. So yeah, 100%. No need to risk further injury there, especially like we say it all the time, but like we are so thin at edge. We've been thin at edge for forever, it seems like. So yeah, 100%. Just looking at, I mean, we haven't maybe just buried the lead a little bit. We haven't even talked about the final score. I don't think that matters at all. Bengals 16, Lions 14. Again, this is a game where Bengals played their starters for a good 2 series. We obviously didn't. So a couple other things probably that stood out to me. I mean, the backup quarterback just race for the Lions is still very much up for grabs. Just signed Josh Dobbs. You have Luke Altmyer as well on the team. Young kid out of Illinois. So Altmyer got the majority of the snaps, 13 to 22, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 53.2 rating on 44 snaps. Josh Dobbs, I think, only had 1 drive, maybe 2. 4 for 8, 32 yards on 22 snaps. I still probably lean Josh Dobbs. I just feel like he has so much more NFL experience, but it's tough, man. I don't necessarily like either of those guys as your backup. Don't feel warm and fuzzy about either of them. I mean, granted, it's a backup quarterback, so we take it with a grain of salt, but I think it's still very much up in the air on which of those two is gonna become the backup quarterback on this team.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna probably they're probably going to go back and forth, similar to what they did in game 1. Maybe they'll give Dobbs a little bit more runway, but I think Luke, just being the rookie, they'll give him primarily all the snaps, and then Josh will come in, for a drive or 2, kind of like what he did. I mean, I don't personally think it's that much of a competition. I thought when Josh Dobbs came in, he just looked like he wasn't a rookie. He looked like a guy who's led a drive before in the NFL, and a guy that you don't want starting. If he's starting for your team, you're in trouble. But I don't feel terrible about it. Like I feel okay with him, leading this team. So I think it's going to be Dobbs' job to lose, when the preseason comes up ending, and obviously we hope it never gets down to that either of these guys are playing. But Dobbs just came in and to me just immediately looked like he knew how to command a huddle, which makes a lot of sense. He's done it before. He's done that backup position and played it pretty well, specifically for the Vikings in the years past and stuff. So I think Dobbs is going to end up winning that job. And one of Luke Altmyer's interceptions definitely wasn't his fault. And that kind of leads me into another guy that I was watching, and Isaac TeSlaa. One of the interceptions 100% was on Isaac. And I will say, I know the rain was really coming down in Cincinnati. It's difficult. The guy's got some jitters and stuff. But Isaac TeSlaa, it's a huge year for him, because obviously we traded up to get him in what was considered a reach at the time. But then you look at a lot of the intangibles, you look at some of the details, and you're like, okay, I guess I kind of get the trading up for this guy. And we end up, cutting loose Tim Patrick, and we're like, all right, well, Isaac's the new guy. Okay, cool. Didn't really use him at all last year. When you did, it was for touchdowns, which was kind of a weird phenomenon. But you expected him to come in this year, especially in preseason. You expected him to come in and be like, in year 2, he's supposed to be wide receiver 3. And in my opinion, he did not look wide receiver 3-like. I mean, outside of the pass that went off his face mask for an interception on Luke Altmyer, I thought other than that, he had a few drops. I just feel like I didn't have any warm fuzzies, watching him play, which is, I thought maybe he was going to come in and be like, all right, I'm the guy. There's no Amon-Ra on the field right now. There's no Jameson Williams on the field right now. Right now, I'm the guy in this offense. This is my offense at the moment. I've been in the system a year. I'm supposed to be the guy, and he didn't shine for me. And I think that was, we talked about, Ahmed Hassanein playing so well in the defense and giving us hope. I don't want to say concerned, but Isaac TeSlaa's play did not have me feeling great after what, Thursday's game, whatever it was.
Are you telling me that you didn't like 3 targets, 0 grabs, 0 yards? Yeah, that wasn't it doing it for you?
Something about that. It just wasn't. And on top of the interception, I don't know, dude. Everyone wants to love you, dude. Come on, do something.
Yeah, I still think yes, he does have the wide receiver 3 job in the bag, but that's kind of because there isn't anyone else.
There isn't
right?
any, right?
Right. So yeah, I completely agree. Huge season for TeSlaa, and I'm certainly not hitting the panic button on a preseason game against the Bengals when none of the other starters were in. He's got Altmyer throwing to him. No offense to Altmyer. I think he's probably going to get some more catchable balls out of Jared Goff. But yeah, we got to use him more. We, like you said, we traded up, man. We traded actually quite a bit of capital to get up and get him in the 3rd round. So you'd like to think he'll pan out and be your everyday wide receiver 3 who can get you a first down, get you a touchdown when you need it. I mean, I'm just looking at he's had a decent camp, I would say. I do remember seeing like one, maybe like last week, he had the quote unquote catch of the day, you know, a big red zone touchdown over a couple of our defensive backs. So like he's making some plays for sure, but you would like to think that in year 2 for him, he's the guy. He's you know, standing out and, you know, turning heads. I think really we've been hearing that from other guys. So like guys like Jameson Williams are just popping off in camp, catching long ass touchdowns. I'm super impressed with what JMO's been doing. His you know, separation from our cornerbacks, like it's almost not even fair. And I don't want to throw any more shade to our defensive backs than we probably already have, or I already have in the last like year. But like it ain't fair, man. Like JMO shining, love that. And like you would love to see something like that from a guy like Isaac TeSlaa in a big year too, and I'm not seeing it either.
You can't shut him down. I wish he would have popped off, you know, I don't know, something, didn't have to go crazy, just like a 5 grab a day for 60 yards or something, you know, like nothing crazy, and a touchdown, like not a crazy stat line, but just like something to be like, all right, he clearly was the go-to guy in this offense of all backups and guys trying to make the roster, you know, so we know that's there, shut him down, get him ready for the season. Like that's what would have been a perfect day for him, and we didn't get that. Just a few other guys kind of going back and forth on the good and the bad. I thought Keith Abney, the cornerback
Yes.
that we took, I believe in the fourth or 5th round in this past draft. And when we took him, we talked about it. We broke him down, how much of a steal he was. He was highly regarded as one of the steals of the entire draft. I thought he looked great. He ended
5th
the day
round.
with 5 total tackles, 4 being solo. I think he had a fumble recovery. Keith Abney looked all the bit like we need him to be. Like he probably, I think, will step in 100% player role in this defense. I really liked what I saw from him.
Dude, it's huge, man. Because just zero depth, very thin at cornerback as well. Really all defensive backs. But a guy like Keith Abney, who when we drafted him, like everyone was like, holy shit, like how did he fall to the 5th round? I think he was, you know, a projected like day 2 guy, like maybe you know, day 3 guy, 3rd round, whatever. Like, and slips to the 5th round. So huge value there. And it's great to see him in his first, you know, NFL game, albeit preseason, like just balling out, man. 5 tackles too. You mentioned, I think, fumble recovery on our own 10-yard line. So yeah, again, it's preseason, but still, you know, these boys they're fighting for their jobs, fighting for playing time in the regular season. And yeah, it comes up with a big play there. So loved what I saw from Keith. Just kind of looking down, I mean, all of our corners, I'm not going to say anyone looked amazing other than Keith. No one really looked bad. And Ennis Rakestraw Jr., 5 tackles as well. He did exit with an injury. So again, like just already thin at corner. And yeah, Rakestraw, another huge season for him because he hasn't really done much. He hasn't stayed on the field. He's been injured. He hasn't, you know, it just hasn't played at all. So like to see him go down with an injury, that absolutely sucks. Just looking at our offensive line as well, our rookie Blake Miller got 39 snaps, Miles Frazier 66 snaps. Nothing really jumped off the page to me on the offensive line. I do feel like Blake Miller, he's not the bona fide starter right now. Like I certainly think that's still up in the air. So would like to see, you know, him get his feet wet a little bit more. Would love to see him start. I mean, I'm all for him. I think that, you know, he's certainly has more talent than a guy like Larry Borum, but like right now, like who's going to give you the best chance to win on week 1? And I'm not ready to say like it's 100% Blake Miller. So more to be seen on the right tackle spot.
I certainly have opinions on the offensive line, but before I forget, I do want to say you mentioned Ennis Rakestraw. He obviously went down with his injury. Ennis, it's unfortunate that he went down with his injury, but I do know we go back and forth on PFF. You know, during the regular season, we reference PFF a lot. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people do. It's a whole thing. And on top of it being preseason, I do know Ennis Rakestraw was the worst ranked PFF player, offense, defense for the entire Lions. Watching the game, I didn't like what I was seeing out of him. I thought he was getting burned a lot. I think he made every now and again a few different plays, like you said. He had 5 tackles, 2 of them being solo, and then ended up going down with his injury. So I didn't come away, again, similar to Isaac, I didn't come away with warm and fuzzy feelings from Ennis and his what hopefully was going to be like his debut, his like coming out party to Detroit, being like, hey, you guys took me pretty high a few years ago. You've been waiting around for me, and
2nd round pick.
Yeah, so like here I am, and he definitely looks not like a 2nd round pick. So we'll have to see. I haven't seen what his injury is going to end up being. I think he said he's going to be okay. Was more like just a stinger, a bruise, a contusion. But the offensive line is interesting because, and the only really injury that that really is sticking out to me at the moment from training camp was that of Cade Mays, and that is a huge one. I don't mean to play that down. Cade Mays is going to be out. I think it was going to be about 6 to 8 weeks. Dan Campbell said it's not season ending. He will be back, but it's going to be some time. I think since then it was confirmed to be about 6 to 8 weeks. I might be wrong on that. He had a fracture in his wrist in practice, which is so unfortunate. Like it just never ends in a position that we needed so terribly and is so important to this offense. You get a guy that, it wasn't the number one guy we wanted. We broke him down when we signed him. Everyone wanted Tyler Linderbaum, but you got Cade Mays at a great deal, and you're okay with that. And then he obviously goes down. So the whole offensive line is going to have to be moving around again, which is really unfortunate. But I thought, you mentioned Blake Miller. I thought there was times when Blake Miller looked really good. I thought his feet looked really good. I thought his movement was good. He was fluid. He was able to get out and pass protect pretty well. And there was other times when he looked like a rookie, which makes sense, especially like we said. I know the Bengals starting offense, their offense was starters. I think most of their defense were starters as well. So I'm happy with. I came away like I wasn't like, oh, holy hell, like you said, like that guy's a bona fide starter. He's got the job. But I also was like, I like where this is starting. I think it's a good start for him. I think at the moment it's a healthy battle between him and Larry Borum, but I feel confident by the end of this preseason, Blake will have figured some things out after his first time out there, and then you can confidently kind of slide Larry wherever you need him to be, whether that's going to be at center or you put Juice Scruggs at center because he plays some center with the Texans with the Cade Mays injury. But it was unfortunate a little bit how a few of the guys played. To couple that with the Cade Mays injury is definitely less than ideal.
Yeah, you're exactly right on the timeline. It does 8 to 10 weeks is what I'm seeing as well. So well into the start of the season there. It sucks, man. You mentioned Juice Scruggs. I feel like Juice Scruggs probably the front runner to be our starting center in week 1. Yeah. I don't. Juice didn't play in this preseason game. I'm fairly certain. He's more of a veteran, but that just fucking sucks, man. Like probably a top 2. He was the second best option, I would say, from the free agent center. So yeah, obviously he's no Tyler Linderbaum. He's not going for $100+ million, whatever. But still, a very solid upgrade to what we had last year. And he's already injured. So fuck, it might be more of the same for the center. And we know how important center is. It's disappointing, man. It's just so unlucky. I feel for the kid.
Just a few of the other guys. And again, this preseason, we don't want to nitpick and over dissect just the first preseason game. And you mentioned, like, you said it perfectly. Like, we didn't really talk about the final score until a good 5-10 minutes into the segment, just because, in my opinion, final score doesn't mean squat. Like, I only care about individual matchups, how guys look, because coaches aren't even running full scale. Like, they're just trying to see how guys can perform and how they play with each other, how they can perform at this level. So I really only care about the different positions. Just a few other kind of miscellaneous guys that I thought played well or played poorly. I thought Jacob Sailors, the running back, I thought he got majority of the snaps until I think he went down with a small injury at some point. I don't know if he ended up coming back, but I thought he looked really good. Definitely kind of going to be filling that Craig Reynolds role as like the RB3, kind of a change of pace back kind of guy. He finished the day with 8 carries, 55 yards, had a long of 27, had another long of like 24 or something that got called back for holding. So I liked what I saw of Jacob Sailors as that RB3.
And maybe RB2 to start the season. You still don't really know about Pacheco and his MCL. All signs are pointed to him being ready for week 1, but those MCLs could linger, and it's not really something where you can get surgery on it, or at least in this case, doesn't really seem like the case. So you could be looking at Jacob Sailors as your RB2 to start the season.
Yeah, which granted I didn't get to watch that much of like his pass blocking, and it's different when you get a different offensive line in there. But if that's the case, and like Pacheco needs a week or two, I think I'll be okay with it. I think we're gonna be riding Gibbs a lot more this year. It's not a hot take, so I would be comfortable with Gibbs getting 90% of the snaps, and then you spell him for a few snaps here and there for Jacob Sailors. Based on his performance, I liked what I saw there. Sure. A few other guys. You had Tom Kennedy, preseason darling for the Lions each and every year. He played pretty well on the defensive side. You saw guys that I really performed and contributed last year, just getting more reps under the belt because they're not 100% everyday starters. You got like Trevor Nowalski, Thomas Harper. I think both those guys played well. Devin White, obviously a veteran in this league. I don't know. I think we might have covered his signing. The Lions signed him kind of out of nowhere last week. A guy that quietly had the second or third most tackles out of a linebacker last year, but then somehow was still on the free agency, was still a free agent. And you dive a little more into his numbers, and the numbers say he's a little bit worse than kind of what his tackles were. But he obviously, we just signed him a few days ago, late last week.
Could be a lot of it worse. Yeah.
Could be a lot of it.
He's basically a pylon in the pass game, but still he's there to eat up.
Still a tackle machine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he played. I'm sure he was just playing more so to get better conditioning. He just was signed, obviously, and then he's still learning the system. So it's a good chance to get some reps and learning the play calling, stuff like that. So Devin White played. He finished the day with 3 tackles, 2 of them being solo. Christian Eisen, guy in the secondary that hopefully will be performing pretty well for us this year. He also played. I mean, a number of different guys that Again, if you're coming in and watching Saturday's game, I think we play at noon. Just some names to watch out for and kind of look if they're going to be playing or not. Just a few other guys that I thought played pretty well.
One more thing too that's actually really interesting was just reading about this, but looking at just the calendar of events in the next couple of days. Obviously, only 3 total preseason games, but that third preseason game, Saturday the 29th, the very next day, Sunday the 30th, is when rosters are due. They cut down to the 53-man roster. So I believe it's pushed up to Sunday from usually it's the middle of the next week. So really that last game, I mean, guys are obviously playing for their jobs, last preseason game, but you have to think that a lot of the decisions are coming down to next Saturday's game against the Commanders. That's the pivotal game. If you're playing for your spot on the team, that's where you got to show off, because it might be too late the following Saturday when rosters are due the day after. So I thought that was just a little interesting tidbit there.
I'm just going through the box score here. One last guy that I'm seeing his name on the box score that I remember watching, and I liked him when he's coming out of the draft this past year. And I think he performed. He didn't his numbers aren't jumping off the page in the box score, but I remember watching. He looked really good. To keep an eye out for Skylar Gill-Howard. He's a defensive tackle coming out of. He was a really late round pick in the last year's draft, but he had some injury issues throughout the years, why he kind of slid. I thought he looked really great. I thought he made some really fast moves on the defensive line. Had 2 QB hits. I think he looked really good. A guy who's very athletic on that line. I think he's someone that definitely watch moving forward. I think he'll definitely come down and probably, hopefully, assist in some way when you get to the regular season. So, anyone else? Any other guys catching your eye that you thought looked good, bad, and different?
I think we hit them all.
Okay. All right, then let's jump to a quick break. And when we come back, let's do a little fact or fiction for the Lions moving forward. All right, we are back. Okay, so like I said, we tried not to overanalyze the first preseason game. If we did, it's just because we finally got football back, and it's a kind of hard not to. But again, the main goal there was just to give you guys enough ammunition to be oh yeah, do you see this guy did this guy played good, bad, whatever. And then moving forward in these last few final preseason games, just some names to look out for when you hear them on the TV, because no one's really analyzing that in depth. Some guys, if you hear their name, you can kind of focus in on them, see how they're playing. So hopefully we were able to do that for you guys. But moving forward, let's play a little fact or fiction. So I have a few different statements here. We're going to go back and forth, and whether we think it's going to be fact or it's going to be fiction, debate them a little bit, and then we'll work towards wrapping up the show with some grid of the week. So, fact or fiction, number 1, Jared Goff's career will be enough as it's on its current trajectory to get him into the Hall of Fame. So I think this was kind of, and as I was coming up with this one, I was a little bit, because my original thought was comparing him to Matt Stafford, because I think they're kind of at the same position right here, right now, as when Stafford was when he left Detroit. I know Jared, I think it was last year, just officially passed his time of when he was in LA. He has been more so in Detroit than that. And then obviously Matthew kind of went off and had a Super Bowl run and MVP season, and he's definitely solidified himself as an MVP or a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I think Jared Goff is kind of at that same spot where right here, right now, without that, Rams run that Stafford had, I think Jared Goff in the Hall of Fame is kind of up there when you break down his numbers and think how many more years he has to play. Fact or fiction, he will be in the Hall of Fame when his career is all said and done.
I'm going fiction on this one. It's just, especially as a quarterback, man, they're not just handing out Hall of Famers for the NFL. Obviously it's still probably easier to get in the NFL Hall of Fame than it is baseball, which is impossible, but certainly a lot harder than the NBA. So yeah, you got to be, I feel at this point they're looking at Super Bowls. You can have all of the yards you want, and don't want to downplay that, by the way. 4 seasons, basically, take out Jared's first season in Detroit when like we were literal dog shit. Last 4 seasons, he's basically floated at like 4,500 yards a season, just racking him up. He's about to pass 40,000 career yards in the NFL. So yeah, don't want to downplay that at all. Like he's a stat monster. He's extremely efficient. We know what he can do with his arm. I think until the Lions win a Super Bowl, and obviously it's the biggest if ever, as a Lions fan, we haven't even sniffed it. So yeah, I just feel like he's going to be outside looking in, even though, I mean, you look at, what is he, five Pro Bowlers, he's been basically in the MVP conversation the last like year or two. Certainly in 2024, he was in that MVP conversations. Phenomenal career. I just feel like it's hard to become a Hall of Famer in the NFL, especially as a quarterback.
So, I mean, do you agree that like he's kind of in that same spot? Because I feel like all those, like you literally could have replaced Matt Stafford with, when you said Jared, like I feel like that was completely the same argument we were having with Matt Stafford when he was shipped off to LA, no?
Yeah, certainly. Like, yeah, if Stafford played his entire career as a Lion, never won the Super Bowl, obviously, kept up with the stats, I feel like he's probably in a better spot than Goff, just because his stats are even more insane. But it would have been tough. And then, obviously Stafford goes to LA, first season with them, wins the Super Bowl. It's a storybook, finish. Not finish. He's still obviously playing and slinging it. Now he's got the MVP. So yeah, I mean, it's a shoe-in now, but at the time when that trade happened, it was far from it for Stafford, I would say. So yeah, I think very, very similar. And Jared, he could still do it, obviously. Like, this team has Super Bowl aspirations. He is, I'm not going to say he's, a top 5 candidate to win NFL MVP, but he's not that far away. Like if he builds on the seasons that he's had, and let's say he, throws for 4,900 yards, we win a Super Bowl, and he could definitely win MVP. Like it could happen. So it's, it's not super far away, but right now I would say fiction. It's outside looking in right now for Goff and in the Hall of Fame.
So I'm going to take the opposite. I'm going to say it's fact. So right now his career stats through 2025, entering this next season, 39,622 career passing yards, 256 career touchdowns to 102 interceptions, a 65.9% career completion percentage, 96.8 career passer rating, 5-time Pro Bowl, 48, 33, and 1 record with the Lions, obviously with 4 consecutive winning seasons, 2 NFC North titles. He is number 1 in franchise history in passer rating with 101.3 for the Lions, and completion percentage with 67.9%. He's number 2 in Lions history in passing yards, 21,451, and touchdowns with 149. He's one of 6 quarterbacks in the NFL to throw for 100 touchdown passes with multiple franchises. And then finally, I think like what kind of puts him there, and a lot could happen in the next few years. What puts him like right there, like on track if he continues this, is obviously if he wins the Super Bowl, he's in my opinion. But he needs about 10,000 more yards to reach 50,000 career passing yards, which is like kind of the common Hall of Fame benchmark a little bit. Which if he plays, 4 more seasons, I think that he could definitely. I mean, obviously, like you just mentioned, if he plays 3-4 more seasons, he's gonna hit that 50,000 career passing yards. And if that's the benchmark, like it's gonna be a lot closer than I think people think.
Hey, I don't doubt you, and I would love nothing more. If he's a Hall of Famer, that means that we most likely won a Super Bowl. It's just right now outside looking in, but like I said, a lot could change, and a lot could change quickly in this league.
Okay, so you're saying fiction, I'm saying fact on Jared Goff's career becoming enough at the end of the day to be in the Hall of Fame. Fact or fiction number 2. I think we're going to be on the same page here, and I think we might have even discussed this on a show when we were talking about the Lions' schedule for this upcoming year. Dan Campbell's firmly on the hot seat this upcoming season. Fact or fiction?
I don't know if we're leaning the same way, man. I'm definitely going fiction. I don't see him as being on the hot seat. I think I don't know if you're saying like a hypothetical if we have a bad season, but like I mean, certainly coming into this season, I don't think there's a hot seat at all. And that's just because like he has been, the leader of men that we really have never had from a Lions coach. This stretch that we've had, a 4-season stretch, like you said, 4 consecutive winning seasons, playoffs in 3 of those, NFC Championship game. Like none of those things have happened for the Lions in the last like 30 years. Like what we, in the 90s we went to the NFC Championship game. So like that alone, I think gives you a lot of grace. They've drafted very well, except for, the horrendous 2024 draft. And again, it's not all on Campbell. That's probably more Brad Holmes. But like, he's done so much that I feel like even if somehow the season doesn't go as planned, like, I don't see this team losing more than like 8 games. So like, yeah, I don't see a hot seat.
Okay, let me rephrase that just to clarify. So say we go 9-8 and miss the playoffs again, and we'll expand it a little bit. Then we go 9-8, miss the playoffs again. Are Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes on the hot seat? You say no for Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes no as well.
So Brad Holmes is interesting because if we go 9-8 and we whiff on all of our draft picks, like that might be changing my mind a little bit on Brad Holmes, just because like we said, yeah, the 2024 draft might go down as like one of the worst we've ever had, yeah. Right? So yeah, that might change my mind, but yeah, I don't know. I would say it'll take a lot for me to say Dan Campbell's on the hot seat, and like a 9-8 is probably not going to do it for me, just because we've just been so shit for so long. And I think we learned from like, the Jim Caldwell era where like, you have a good coach and maybe you don't think you're quite where you want to be and you fire him and then you're just shit for like 10 years after. We are so far ahead right now of where we were in that era of Lions football with Jim Caldwell. So like, I don't know. I think we're not going to, fool me once, shame on you, right? Or shame on me, whatever it goes. I don't know. It's a no for me. Now, again, if we win like 4 games and like the team has completely quit and Dan Campbell's lost the locker room, like, yeah, something like that technically could happen. It won't, but like that would change my mind. But barring a situation like that, it's just he's done enough for me. He's not on the hot seat. Now next year we'll probably have a different conversation.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna say we go 9-8, miss the playoffs. One of them, I think that 100% they would both be on the hot seat. I don't know if they actually, that trigger would be pulled and they both get fired. If one gets fired, who deserves more to get fired? If we go 9-8, miss a hot seat or miss the playoffs. But I'm gonna say fact. I'm gonna say if the bottom falls out again this year, it'll be definitely a discussion quite a lot on SportsCenter whether these guys deserve to come back for another year. And I think you mentioned the draft class. I think that was one of the worst draft classes I've ever seen, and in a time when we definitely needed to hit on a few guys, and so I think that's going to play into. But okay, let's keep moving forward. Fact or fiction number 3: over under 2.5 Hall of Famers the Lions have on this roster right here, right now.
Oh wow!
So take a second to think about these. Over under 2.5 Hall of Famers on this roster.
Over. I'm going over, man. Yeah.
All right, name them.
Yeah, dude. I mean, granted, like I don't want to jinx anything, but like I think it's pretty easy over. I mean, it's Hutch, it's Gibbs, and it's Penei Sewell. Like I mean, granted, a lot of things can happen, but right now, man, I mean, those guys are just on such a collision course with the Hall of Fame, all 3 of them. So yeah, I think barring any setbacks, and then, dude, who knows, man? Like, I mean, if St. Brown just keeps doing what he's doing for a long enough period, like, and just racking up receptions and yards like he does, he could easily find his way into the Hall of Fame. Like, he's just he is one of those players where like I just wouldn't put it past him. Like what he can do on and off the field, like his training, like I just feel like he is a guy that's longevity is going to be on his side. Like he just keeps his body right. He plays into his 30s. I could certainly see that. So there are players, and then obviously we just talked about Goff, man. So like you throw in those like maybes where like, yeah, maybe each of those guys only has a 30% chance, but then like you parlay that with Hutch and Penei and like Gibbs. If like Gibbs stays on this trajectory, like dude, he's a stats machine, a yards machine, touchdown. I think it's over for sure.
Admittedly, this number probably should have been at a minimum 3.5, because I think that
3.5 would have been tough.
It would have been really tough, because I think there, in my mind, there is one 100% bona fide Hall of Famer on this roster, and that's Penei Sewell. And granted, even that, like, there's a question. We both are very confident he can do it, but I think we need to see this season for him to double check. Okay, he can switch over, go back to the the left side of the line where he played in college. Hit the ground running, still be his insane, best lineman in the league self. And then again, it's just kind of double down, bona fide Hall of Famer right there. I think the same can go for Hutch. I think we've seen Hutch be absolutely dominant. I think we need to see one more season, one more healthy season of him being absolutely dominant, and get the guy some damn help, and then we can really see what happens. And then I think like one more healthy year where he's putting up like, flirting with defensive player of the year like he was 2 years ago when he got injured, and he was okay. He was pretty good last year. We're really good last year, but I wouldn't say he was necessarily a bona fide Hall of Famer last year. So like I need one more good year, one more stellar year from Hutch in order to put in that. And then the only reason I'm a little more iffy if I was gonna rank those, if I'm ranking them out loud in terms of who is most likely to be locked in there, then I think just Gibbs, just because I think it's really hard for running backs to get in the Hall of Fame because of their such short career life cycles. You look at guys like Todd Gurley, who were insane for years, but then retired so early because of degenerative knee issues and chronic arthritis and stuff. And Todd Gurley, if you look back at his numbers, his numbers were insane. And I don't know. I don't know if you consider Todd Gurley a bona fide Hall of Famer. I think a lot of people would. I think there's an argument for it not to be. So, that's the only knock on Jahmyr Gibbs. And then you brought up Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then it's just a whole conversation of, longevity. And it really does kind of fall into the same as, a Jared Goff, in which, you get a Super Bowl and combine it with Amon-Ra St. Brown's long career and putting up the numbers he's been putting up. He continues those, get a Super Bowl in there. Then I think 100% he definitely has an argument. But, he doesn't get a Super Bowl in there. You're just talking about a lot of numbers because he played a lot of years and was kind of like a really safe guy year in and year out. How do you weigh that? He's obviously not necessarily on the same, well, maybe he is because quarterbacks' careers go longer than receivers. But I was going to say he's not necessarily on the same career path or, timeline as Jared Goff. So it's likely at some point he'll have a new quarterback. I think that could depend on, could change his numbers a little bit depending on who the quarterback comes in. So I think that's a great point. I think really 3.5 probably would have been a really difficult number to put it at, but I'm with you. I'm taking fact on the fact that the Lions have over 2.5 Hall of Famers on roster right now.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Last one here, fact or fiction. And we just talked about them for a second. The Lions have the best receiving core in the NFL.
No, it's got to be fiction. I mean, it's a good core for sure, and I think it's up there. I think top 5 easily. I don't know, man. I'm looking at a receiving core like Cincinnati, and I just feel like their 1-2 punch is just a little bit better than ours. I would put Jamar Chase just slightly better than Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think right now for me, T. Higgins it's just a better all around player than Jameson Williams. So I'm trying to think. I mean, it's certainly close, but when I'm looking at receiving cores, I've always had Cincinnati's just slightly ahead of ours. So for that alone, I'm going fiction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fiction here too, because just kind of going through these, I think there's an argument because as someone with OCD, a receiving core to me is perfect when you have an Amon-Ra St. guy, a guy who can kind of do it all, just a very, very safe, very, a really good guy out to have there a day in and day out. You have a guy that can take the top off like Jameson Williams, like we have, back in the day, the kind of the perfect take the top off guy was, Tyreek Hill. You have a Tyreek Hill type of guy. And then you need an X receiver, or a guy who can just go up and pinpoint a ball, a 6'5" receiver, a Kelvin Johnson. Obviously, there's not Kelvin Johnson's just walking around, but an X receiver that can go up and win 50-50 balls. And I think we're kind of missing that right now with the Lions. You have obviously Amon-Ra and Jameson, but then you need Isaac TeSlaa, who is 6 foot plus to be that X receiver, and he definitely hasn't been that. You can look at the Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. I think that could definitely be up there with the competitive with the top receiving core. You already mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals. I personally think Seattle has an argument to be one of the best receiving cores right now with Puka Nacua and JSN, with JSN's coming out party last year. I think Detroit's just kind of missing that X receiver and just needs Isaac TeSlaa to jump up and be a better than average receiver. And then I think they're definitely top 3. I think you can make that argument if he's able to do that.
You just blew my mind. Puka. I think were you talking about the Rams, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, that duo?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Excuse me.
I said because if Puka and JSN were on the same team, that's just cancel the league. That's just
Cooper Kupp and JSN also. I think that's also an argument that those two guys should definitely be up there as well.
Yeah, I would certainly. Yeah, the Rams duo right now I'm putting ahead, and yeah, you mentioned Dallas. I can't believe that didn't come to mind, dude. George Pickens is a monster, dude. And then CeeDee Lamb, I would still say CeeDee Lamb and ARSB are they're so similar. Like they do different things, but like they're I would say 1A 1B is if you were like comparing the two. So yeah, personally, I probably have Amon-Ra just a little bit ahead of CD, but like, dude, CD 2 years ago, just led the league in receiving. He was a beast. So it's tough, but yeah, the fact that we're having the conversation is always a good thing. I still think Amon-Ra and Jameson are one of the best 1-2 punches, and I'm so happy that they're on our team.
Yeah, and with all that being said, we know what Amon-Ra is and what he can do. Last year, Jameson, I think, played better than a lot of people expected. Like, we knew he could do that. I think last year he had a really good year. We need to see it. We need to see it 2 years in a row to show it wasn't just kind of a 1 year bump where, you kind of caught teams off guard by being, better than maybe a lot of teams thought you could be. So we got to see it be replicated in year two, or not year two for him, but in a second year. And then, like we said, we need Isaac TeSlaa to step up and be that X receiver that kind of just can go up and pinpoint a ball. Jared can kind of throw up a fade in the corner, and which he credit to him, he did last year. He had a number of just fades in the corner of the end zone for touchdowns. So we need him to do that and a little bit more moving forward. And then maybe this will be more of a fact. So, okay, so Jared Goff, not a Hall of Famer. Dan Campbell, not on the hot seat. Lions have over 2.5 Hall of Famers, and the Detroit Lions do not have the best receiving core in the NFL. That is our fact or fiction. Thank you for playing. Let's wrap up the show with our Grit of the Week. Before we do that, Grid of the Week is brought to you guys by Old Glory, our new friends over at Old Glory. Old Glory is the ultimate destination for officially licensed merchandise, offering over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, pop culture fans. Going all the way back to 1969, this family-owned superstore has provided high-quality graphic tees, hoodies, hats, accessories, everything that you would need, featuring the world's most iconic bands and sports teams. Music lovers can explore merch across all genres, including legendary artists such as Bob Marley, the Beatles, Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones, Metallica, many more, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB. They have all the different sports teams that you need. Our listeners can get 15% off any product using promo code GRIT at oldglory.com. Again, that's promo code GRIT, G-R-I-T, for 15% off any product at oldglory.com. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with your Grit of the Week, but kick us off here.
I don't think you do, man. My Grit of the Week, guy we haven't talked about today. We actually didn't talk about this team today. Probably should have, but we just didn't find the time. But Grit of the Week, Spencer Torkelson, man. I don't know if we talked about him on last week's episode. I hope we did, but like he's just having a tremendous August, just a really tremendous second half of the season ever since the All-Star break. Batting .350 in August, 14 for 40. He mixed in a 6-game hitting streak in that time. 2 doubles, 4 RBIs. He's hitting dingers. He's up to, I think, 20 on the season. So right on pace. He loves hitting 30, 31 homers on the season. Hopefully he can get there. But yeah, dude, with runners in scoring position this season, he is one of the best hitters in baseball. It's awesome to see. I feel like this is a guy who catches a ton of flack, probably just by me. I don't know if I'm the only one giving him flack, but probably not. But I know I've been, on this show, giving Torque some hate. I want to give him all the love right now because he certainly deserves it, man, for his second half of the season and just what he's doing with ducks on the pond. So yeah, Grit of the Week, Spenny Torkelson.
Well, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I gave him my Grit of the Week because, again, I think like you just broke down, like he's a guy that catches a lot of flack from Detroit, and rightfully so. And I mean, we have guys in the minors that are kind of doing what he can do. You got guys like even Tyrone Lorenzo, or I forget how you say his last name, who's kind of just doing a lot what Torkelson can do. You have Josue Brasinho, who's doing a lot what Torkelson can do. Like, you have guys that are already calling for Torkelson's job, and he just is kind of doing what he can to stay up in the league and doing it pretty well. He's not going to ever be the hitter that we drafted him 1-1 to be, which is unfortunate. Like, we thought he had the generational stuff to be a 40 home run hitter and bat at least, 270 or something like that. He's never going to be that, but I think he's proving himself to be a lot more clutch than we thought, like you just mentioned, with runners in scoring position. So you move him down the lineup, he becomes a weapon to hit 30 home runs in the 6 or 7 spot. And I know the numbers kind of weird because I think when you look at him and you watch him play, you don't see a player that is able to capitalize with runners in scoring positions. And then additionally, but then the numbers say, like, obviously, like you said, he can. And then additionally, when he's playing defense at first base, the numbers say he's one of the worst defensive first basemen in the league. But then you watch him, and I think he saves a lot of runs. He picks the ball really, really well. And so there's two things that, like, necessarily, they both go different ways, but like one of the eye test doesn't match up with the numbers for good or for worse. And so, like, yeah, I think Torkelson gets a lot of heat, rightfully so, but I think he's playing really, really well. Since the All-Star break, I think he's batting like 330 or something like that with these home runs. And again, still playing good eye defense, no matter what the numbers tell you. So shout out to Torque. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know what his camp is going to be wanting money-wise. If the league is going to, or the front office is going to want to go and use Josue Briseño at first base instead of Torque and not pay him. I don't know, a lot to be seen. But while we still have him, yeah, shout out Torkelson. My grid of the week. I'm actually, when you scared me a little bit, because when you mentioned a team we hadn't talked about, I knew you were going to the Tigers, and I wasn't sure if you were going to go to my guy. My grid of the week, I'm going to give to Bryce Rainier, a guy that we haven't really talked about all that much. He was the Detroit Tigers draft pick from not this past draft, but the draft before. Played a little bit of high ball A ball last year. Went back. I think he actually was on first base, playing pretty well out of high school. Went back and was sliding back into first base, dislocated his shoulder, had to have surgery, was shut down for the year. Came back this year a little bit slow. He is now homered. He's our number 3 prospect after the trade deadline. He's homered in 3 straight games and 13 total times since being called up to Western Michigan high A ball. If you break down his kind of side by side, his swing has changed a little bit. His hands have calmed down. He was moving his hands around a lot before, not getting great contact. He's adjusting his swing. And again, home runs in 3 straight games, 13 total since getting called up to high A ball. Bryce is, he's got the pieces. It's going to take some time. Obviously, he's probably not going to be up till about 2028 probably. But Bryce is looking really good. He's turning some things around. Now that he's had some good amount of time under his belt coming back from his injury. So I'm going to give my grid of the week to Bryce Rainier.
Dude, it's huge. Yeah, he's still only 20 years old. So yeah, to your point, like a couple more years at least before he's in the bigs. It'd be interesting to see like what position he plays when he actually gets up here. I think he's predominantly shortstop. So
yeah.
Like obviously, yeah, you got K-Dog there right now. But again, like shortstop, that can translate to a bunch of different positions. Just a stud, man. Big time draft pick. We took him 11th overall. Montgomery went a pick later to Boston, who now he's Brandon Montgomery's playing for the White Sox now. Obviously, the White Sox just swept the Tigers. So yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on everything Tigers. If things were different and the Tigers did the sweeping this weekend, maybe we'll be talking about it a little bit more. But until that happens, we'll certainly keep you all updated. Bryce Rainier, grid of the week.
Yeah, 843 OPS, 13 home runs. The Tigers got to get their shit together, but that's a conversation for a different day. But all right, that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch these episodes live on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And if you guys like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying so. Follow us on all forms of social media. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
Yeah. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.